Hello, I'm Professor Dave Parsons, a college professor, educational consultant, and a motivational speaker. This series is called Vocal Exercises. It's designed to help with pronunciation and fluency, as well as to help teachers with exercises and activities to use in their classroom. Okay, today we're going to be dealing with a vocal exercise, and this one's called Woodchuck, and it's a tongue twister. It's designed to be difficult to speak. So when you're doing it, go slow and try to work up with your speed and work on your pronunciation as you go. But it's an excellent exercise to help your mouth learn to make the correct noises and for you to learn to listen to and recognize the different sounds. So let's take a look at this one. This one's called How Much Wood Could a Woodchuck Chuck? Okay? I'm going to do it a couple of times and we're going to talk about it. So here's the first one. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? A woodchuck would chuck all the wood he could chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood. Let's do that one more time, and I want you to go do it along with me and see if you can hear the different sounds that are being used. All right, here we go. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? A woodchuck would chuck all the wood he could chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood. All right, that was a little difficult, and it's going to take a little bit of practice. So you're going to want to do it a number of times and practice. There's a couple things in here that I like to use when I'm teaching this exercise. And one of the first things that we want to look at are some words, like we see in this first line, and the word is woodchuck. It's one long word. It's actually the name of an animal. But if we look at the word, woodchuck is actually a combination of two words, the word wood and the word chuck. But we put them together particularly to make a name, and that's the case here. It's the name of an animal. There's some other words in English, lots and lots of other words that are compound words, or a word made up of two words. We see that in the game of basketball, made up of the word basket and made up of the word ball. We also see this in baseball with the word home run, the word home and the word run. So here we see woodchuck, a compound word. When you see these kinds of words, break it down into two parts. It's easier to say woodchuck than it is to say woodchuck, or at least to recognize. So when you see these words, break them into their parts. It's a little bit easier to speak. One of the main sounds in this particular exercise is the letter W, and I've underlined the letter W here to help us focus on it. When you make this sound, it's important that you use it correctly. Otherwise, you might sound like a different sound, a different letter, for example, and it'll make it more difficult to understand what you're saying. And a lot of my students use their tongue in the back part of their mouth, and they end up making a sound that's more of a g sound instead of a w sound. So we want to make sure we work on the W. I'm going to blow air through my lips. I'm going to use my lips as if I was going to whistle. I'm going to push some air through my lips, and that's where the primary sound comes from. A little bit of vocal cord vibration, and I'm going to say w, w. The sound for the W is w, and we see this in wood, woodchuck, will, want, and win. W, the letter W. Okay? A couple other things that I want to point out here is we have two words that are very similar. In the first line it says, how much wood would a woodchuck chuck? Well, there are two different words for wood. The first one, how much wood, is actually the material we get when we cut trees. Okay, we use it to make furniture, for example. That is a material called wood. The second one is W-O-U-L-D, and this wood is actually a derivative of the word will. It's in the past for will. So how much wood would a woodchuck chuck? And we want to make sure we know that they're different words. In this case, the word would is, the L is silent. So it's pronounced differently than it looks, and it's a little difficult for some folks. but it is would, and it is pronounced the same way as the other word, would. Another word in here is in the second line. It says, if a woodchuck could chuck wood. And could is the past of can, and it means a possibility or to ask permission. Could I use your phone is a question, and you're asking, is it possible that I use your phone? So in this case it says, if a woodchuck could chuck wood, and we're asking about the possibility if a woodchuck could chuck wood. The other one obviously is a woodchuck. I told you it was an animal. There's a picture of it here. Woodchuck is an animal. It's also called a groundhog, and it's a cousin to another animal called a beaver. Something that's fairly common in the United States. We have a day called Groundhog Day, and so somebody made a vocal exercise using the woodchuck. So it's kind of a cute little animal you can see there. One of the things that I want you to see is the rhythm and cadence involved in this particular exercise. I'm going to do it again, and I want you to listen to the musicality of it, or the rhythm of it. So here it goes. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? A woodchuck would chuck all of the wood he could chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood. So for people who are musically inclined, it helps if you tap your finger or your hand on your desk or your table as you're going through this. We'll do it one more time. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? A woodchuck would chuck all the wood he could chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood. So there's some musicality or cadence and rhythm to this, and when you're reading, you really want to follow the rhythm and cadence that the text prescribes for you. So practice this, go through it a few times, work on your vocal sounds, your pronunciation, and while you're at it, learn a little bit of vocabulary. Have fun with the words. These kinds of exercises are good practice and they're good fun. They're great to share with people, and I hope you have success with it. Peace.